Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan Battle video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at how the basically we're going to take a look at how the int Metal Cooler Army performs in the Cell Max red zone. So basically just to get a good look at them in a decent red zone. I don't think Cell Max is the hardest red zone, as in I don't think he has the highest defense requirement, but that's pretty good for the int a la Metal Cooler Army, because their defense is very determinant on how many supers they get. So when you have like too much RNG involved or required, I think it's better to just have them kind of run as they are, and to try them out in this event where it's less dependent on them getting 3 or 4 or 5 super attacks, so that we can get a decent look at a solid performance from them. I think they should be decent in most red zone. I don't think they're going to be hugely popular in terms of like red zone performance or anything like that. Like, I don't think you're going to see them be huge or massive or anything like that, but yeah, generally speaking, I think you should see them be very solid when it comes to performance in a lot of red zones, especially as a floater or as a second slot unit. I think that's where you will find them to be the most useful. For me, I think that's where you'll find them to be solid units that can contribute to your team and to your team build and to your team performance. So yeah, I do think they are decent. I don't think they're nearly as bad as they're made out to be. I think they excel in this Wicked Bloodlines team alongside the physical LR Metal Cooler. Giving him defense is also pretty good for them. The amount of healing they provide alongside him is pretty good. It's all start of turn healing, which is also super helpful. So yeah, I think they're good. I genuinely think they're pretty good, I want to say. So I'm quite happy with their performance. I think if I can criticize anything, I think from the review it still stems that they are a little bit key starved. They could do with a bit more key or access to a bit more key. For me, I think they just need that key to kind of look, to make full benefit of their kit, because they do have some really good stuff, like the 2-turn attack buff on their 18 key, which is actually something that's very useful, especially for a team like Wicked Bloodlines or Terrifying Conquerors. That 2-turn attack buff can really boost some of these big crucial units like strength LR Cooler and things like that. So I do think for me at least, that does somewhat matter a bit more than maybe people think it does, and I think it helps them out a lot. So for me to be able to get that is quite helpful, and I would have liked them to have a little bit better access to their key, but it's okay. At the end of the day, it's not a train smash if you don't get it. It's not like it sets them back defensively or anything, which for most people will be the important thing. For most people it'll be more important how strong they are defensively than how strong they are offensively. But they do a great job here. They do a really solid job on the Wicked Bloodlines team. It is a 200% lead for them, and they do share 5 links with the physical Metal Cooler, and my unit is definitely link level 10 as well. So there are a couple disclaimers I want to say to that. I don't want to kind of say without like disclaimer how good they are, when yes, there are definitely things that need to be considered, personally speaking. But I think for the most part, most players will be happy with this team, with with their performance, with how good they do, with how good the int LR Metal Cooler army is, you know. I think they carry themselves quite well, and I think, you know, considering they're free to play and they're very accessible, I think they're very solid. I again wouldn't say they're a rocket science performance team. They're not you know, super duper incredible. They're not like the most insane unit of all time. They're probably not even the best free to play unit of all time, if I'm being honest. They are what I would classify as decent. So yeah, they're maybe not even the best free to play unit, but I think they are a solid option, especially, you know, for things like building around on your team, getting some solid builds on your team and things like that. I think they do tend to do a good job. So I think overall they're solid and they represent themselves well. I think the team is also obviously very strong. I wouldn't say they're a first choice for the team. You know, I wouldn't say that they are these first choice super powerful units that can definitely be on the Wicked Bloodlines team. I think if you have all the top Wicked Bloodlines team units, you probably don't run them, if I'm being honest. But I think they still can do a solid job and aren't going to let you down, you know, at least from my perspective. But of course, you know, it's going to depend on yourself. It's going to depend on like your team and what you need at the time. They are obviously much better alongside physical Metal Cooler than they will be alongside other units, but I still think they're pretty impressive. At least to me, I think they're still a very, very good unit overall, and yeah, I like them a lot. Yeah, link-wise, they're obviously pretty good. They've got a lot of those generic links, big bad bosses, strongest clan in space, so they definitely are usable. And then you've got like the solid mix of their builds and their abilities and everything like that, which I think is also fairly decent as well. All of the mixes, like all of the different things that they provide, you know, the healing, the super attacks, the things like that, do tend to be consistent. So I will say that they are a fairly consistent performer comparatively to maybe some other units. I think they do a decent job, but obviously their defense or their ability to tank high level content is very dependent on their overarching you know, abilities, like their abilities to get those super attacks, because if they don't get a whole bunch of super attacks, then they're not going to be looking nearly as good as, you know, they could or possibly should, etc. So I think, yeah, not to criticize them or anything like that, or to you know, question like them as a unit, but high level content they definitely need, you know, 1 or 2 super attacks, more so than they need 3 or 4 super attacks kind of thing. But they do need those 2 super attacks, like they need them, like it's non-negotiable. They need them, and without them they're not going to be able to tank sufficiently any in-game content really. If they just get off 1 super attack, they're not looking that impressive. I would say 2 is maybe the bare minimum, and I would say 3 is probably where I'd say they're good for most in-game content normals. Like, that's the thing. It is fairly inconsistent. It is not really something, you know, you're just going to be able to like get easily. But that's why I think the Cell Max stage is a bit better for them. The defense requirement's slightly lower, which means them grabbing the 2 super attacks leads them to looking decent, like leads them to looking fairly solid, you know, overall. Whereas I think on some of the other red zones, the requirements may be a bit too high, and you're relying a lot more on them getting those 2 or 3 super attacks, which can cause inconsistency in their performance and cause them to look a bit unstable as a unit. With that being said, I mean, you know, to each their own. I think overall they're still a very, very, very solid unit. And yeah, I think they'll do well for you, especially in red zone against tech bosses. So, for example, Bojack, things like that. I think, you know, they'll look good. They'll definitely look good. They'll be a solid option. They'll help you carry. They'll do good damage as well from that perspective. So yeah, I do think there is a solid foundation, you know, for them as a unit to kind of exist in, and I think that's really, really good. So yeah, I would say that there is definitely room for them to be usable, for them to be like an option for a lot of red zones. Anything tech related, they're going to be an instant hit on the Wicked Bloodlines team, even just as a floater, dealing good damage, the heals, etc. Everything that they bring will be very, very good. So yeah, I'm a fan of them. I know it may seem a bit strange, but I'm actually a real fan of them. I think for a free-to-play unit, for them to be so solid, I think is something that's very, very good. I think you can kind of get a bit detached from the game when you're constantly evaluating super high units. And we got to remember that also free-to-play units they're not necessarily there to do the hardest content. I know that's maybe blasphemy to hear, but they're more stepping stones, collectible units, units that can assist maybe with specific content challenges, like using Wicked Bloodline units, for example, for LGE or things like that. And yeah, I think people need to remember that is part of the process, you know, more so than anything. And I think, yeah, these guys are in that line. They're in that line of looking really solid. They will help any player with almost all the Wicked Bloodline challenges that you can have in this game. They could be a useful unit for you to use as a floater, which I think is incredibly important. So yeah, I think overall it's really sick, and I think it's really, really cool. So yeah, I'm happy with their performance, and I think if you are someone who's super interested in getting them, if you're like, okay, what's the catch? Do I need them? Do I not need them? Am I going to use them? Am I not going to use them? I think, you know, you'll definitely use them. I've used them a ton, and if I didn't or hadn't completed like half of these challenges already, I would probably be using them anyway, just because they are solid and they actually are a very, very good member of the team. Especially with this physical metal cooler, I think they look really, really good. Like, I think they look really, really, really solid. So yeah, I'm super happy with their performance, honestly speaking. So yeah, I hope you guys get a good idea now of how they do in red zone. Obviously, like I said, this isn't maybe the hardest one, but still think it's a good representation nonetheless. But yeah, that is going to be it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, if you guys need, you can give me a shout or leave a comment. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye.